I never thought I'd be the guy writing about how I got completely blindsided by the woman I was about to marry. Her name was Lisa, and honestly, she seemed perfect at first. We met in college, hit it off right away, and within a year we were talking about getting married. Everyone said we looked good together, like a perfect couple. But as the months went on, I started noticing little things that didn't add up. It started with her phone. She'd always be secretive about her texts, quick to hide her screen when I walked into the room. I'd catch her deleting messages, and she'd brush it off with some bitchy excuse like, "It's just my work stuff," or "Stop being so paranoid." I shrugged it off at first, thinking maybe I was just overthinking it. But then came the little lies about where she was going or who she was with. She'd say she was out with her friends, but I'd find out later she'd been with her best friend, Sean. The way she'd act around him, laughing a little too much, touching his arm, something felt off. It got worse during her recent bachelor and bachelorette parties. She insisted she was just going out with her girlfriends, but I saw her texting Sean nonstop that weekend. And then there were the late nights she'd claim were just work, but her phone stayed hidden under her pillow or in her purse, even when she was sleeping. I started catching her in tiny lies, and honestly, I felt more like an investigator than a fiancé. But I didn't want to believe it. I loved her, stupidly. I wanted to believe she'd never cheat on me. The real kicker was the wedding rehearsal dinner. That night, I was trying to enjoy the last bit of normalcy before the big day, but something felt off. Lisa was being her usual bitchy self, snapping at everyone, acting like she was too good for the whole thing. I thought maybe she was just nervous or stressed out. But then I saw her in the corner talking to Sean, and the way they looked at each other, it was like they shared some secret language. Their eyes lingered a little too long. I noticed how she touched his arm quickly, like she was trying to hide it but couldn't help herself. I should have walked away right then, but I didn't. I kept my cool, pretending I didn't see a thing. After all, I was about to marry this woman. I was supposed to trust her, right? But part of me knew I was fooling myself. The more I watched her, the more I realized this wasn't some innocent flirtation. This was betrayal, and I had no idea how deep it went. I just knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. The next day, I promised myself I'd find out the truth. Whatever it was, I'd face it. That's when everything changed. The morning after the rehearsal dinner, I couldn't get the image of Lisa and Sean out of my head. I kept going over every detail, how her eyes lingered a little too long, the way she touched him that night. I knew I needed to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. So I started digging quietly. I wasn't about to confront her without solid proof. I figured I'd check her phone, her social media, anything I could get my hands on. I waited until she left for her brunch with her mother. She always liked to pretend she was doing something innocent, so I knew this was my only chance. I slipped into her purse while she was gone and found her phone, obviously unlocked because she was stupid enough to leave it sitting there. I scrolled through her messages, her calls. My stomach dropped when I saw a string of texts between her and Sean. They weren't just friendly, they were flirty as hell. "Can't wait to see you tonight," one message read. Another said, "You're the only one who understands me." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. She'd been lying to me all along. Not just about the affair, but everything, every little lie, every fake smile. I saw the photos she sent him, cheeky little selfies, her in sexy outfits I'd never seen before. They'd been sneaking around behind my back for weeks, maybe longer. I couldn't believe I missed all the signs, that I'd been so blind to her bitchy, manipulative side. I took screenshots, copied everything I could, then closed her phone. I needed to confront her, but I didn't want to do it right away. I needed to think, to plan. I decided I'd catch her in the act if I had to set a trap, maybe, or just wait for her to slip up again. But the shock was overwhelming. I'd trusted her with everything, the future, my life, and she was out there doing this behind my back. I felt sick, betrayed, furious. That woman I loved, that woman I was supposed to marry, had been lying to me from the start. When she finally got back from her brunch, I was already sitting on the couch, arms crossed, waiting. She walked in with her usual bitchy attitude, acting like she hadn't a care in the world. I looked her straight in the eyes and asked, "Lisa, who is Sean to you?" Her face twitched like she knew she'd been caught, but she quickly masked it with a snarky smile. She rolled her eyes and scoffed. What kind of question is that? Sean's just a friend, okay? You're overreacting as usual. But I wasn't buying it. I knew better now. I knew everything I needed to know. And I knew I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. After her little denial, I felt a mix of rage and sadness flooding through me. I had to get some clarity, so I pushed her further, asking her straight up, how long has this been going on? How deep does it go? Her face twisted into that nasty, bitchy sneer she always wore when she thought she was winning an argument. You're just jealous, she spat. It's always about you being insecure. Sean and I are just friends, and you're the one obsessing over stupid little messages. I couldn't believe the lies. I'd seen the messages, the photos, the way she acted around him. Her reaction was classic deflection, trying to make me doubt myself, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I knew she'd been cheating, that I saw everything. Her eyes flickered for a second, just long enough to tell me she was lying, but then she snapped. You're crazy. You've always been crazy. You're just trying to start a fight because you're scared I'll leave you. That's when it hit me how manipulative she was. She always knew how to twist things around, make me doubt my sanity. But I'd had enough. I told her I was done, that I couldn't be with someone who lied and cheated behind my back. She looked at me like I'd just slapped her in the face. Then she started crying, fake tears streaming down her face, saying I was overreacting, that she never meant to hurt me, that she loved me. That was the moment I realized how good she was at lying, how she could switch from bitchy to pathetic in seconds. But I wasn't buying her act. I knew what she was capable of now. I knew how long she'd been betraying me, how she'd been sneaking around during our supposed special moments and smiling at Sean in secret. That night I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. Every ounce of trust was gone. I couldn't sleep, kept replaying the whole scene in my head. The betrayal, the lies, the secret messages. It all felt like a bad dream I couldn't wake up from. The worst part was I loved her, or at least I thought I did. But now I was starting to see that she'd always been this selfish, bitchy woman who only cared about herself. And I wondered how I'd let it get this far. How I trusted someone who was so capable of being this cruel. I knew I had to decide what to do next, but honestly, every thought was clouded by this mix of heartbreak and anger. The days that followed were a blur of anger, heartbreak, and confusion. I knew I couldn't just pretend everything was okay anymore. I had to act, had to figure out my next move. But part of me was already making plans to end it all, cut her out of my life completely. I couldn't stay with someone who'd betrayed me so deeply, who'd lied and cheated just to feed her own selfish needs. I started looking into legal options, just in case she tried to pull any stunts, like claiming I was abusive or trying to manipulate the situation. But honestly, I didn't care about that stuff right now. All I cared about was making her see that I knew the truth, that she couldn't lie her way out of it anymore. I also started talking to some friends, trying to get advice, but I knew the only person I really needed was myself. I had to be strong enough to walk away if that's what it came to. Meanwhile, Lisa kept acting like nothing was wrong. She still threw her bitchy little tantrums, acted like she was the victim, and tried to guilt me into staying. She'd say things like, "You're overreacting," or "You're making a huge deal out of nothing." Every word she spat was like a dagger. I was starting to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who thought she could get away with everything. One night, she cornered me in the living room, trying to talk her way out of it. She looked at me with those fake, bitchy eyes and said, "You're just jealous because I'm prettier, smarter, and more successful than you. Sean and I are just friends, and you're too insecure to see that. You're crazy if you think I'd actually cheat on you." That's when I snapped. I couldn't listen to her anymore. I told her she was full of shit, that I knew exactly what she was doing, and that I'd had enough. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I wasn't stupid. I knew she'd been cheating on me for a long time, and I wasn't going to let her ruin my life. I needed to get out, to get away from her toxicity. I started packing my bags, planning to leave that night. The whole house felt like a prison, and I just wanted to breathe again. That's when I realized how much her betrayal had changed me, how much I'd been blindsided by her bitchy, manipulative side. But I also knew I'd be better off without her. I had to find a way to move on, no matter how much it hurt in the moment. That night, I packed up everything I could. Clothes, my laptop, some personal stuff. I didn't want to leave anything behind that could remind me of her. I was furious but also numb. All I could think about was how she had stolen so much from me, my trust, my future, my sense of stability. I remember sitting on the bed, looking around the room that used to feel like home and feeling this overwhelming wave of sadness and anger. How could she have been so selfish, so bitchy, so manipulative? Before leaving, I decided I needed to confront her one last time. I didn't want to leave with a bunch of unanswered questions hanging over me, so I called her into the living room, closed the door, and looked her straight in the eyes. "You've been cheating on me," I said. Her face instantly shifted, that fake bitchy smirk flickering into something more desperate. She tried to deny it again, but I pulled out my phone with all the screenshots and messages. I laid them on the table like evidence. "This is what I found. You've been lying to me from the start, haven't you?" She started crying again, but this time it was different. It was genuine. At least that's what she wanted me to believe. She begged for forgiveness, saying she was sorry, that she didn't mean for it to happen, that she was stressed, that Sean was just a distraction from her real problems. She looked so pathetic, so pitiful in that moment, but I didn't buy it. I saw through her act, the tears, the manipulation. I knew she'd been lying all along. I knew she'd been sneaking around behind my back, betraying everything we ever had. I told her I was done. That I couldn't stay with someone who lied and cheated, who cared about herself more than she ever cared about me. I said I'd be better off alone than with someone like her. Then I left, not even bothering to look back. As I drove away from that house, I felt this strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I was finally free, but the pain of betrayal still gnawed at me. I kept replaying everything in my head: how she'd lied, how she'd betrayed the trust we built, how her bitchy, manipulative nature had been hiding behind that fake smile. In the days that followed, I realized I'd been living in denial for too long. I'd given her so many chances, and she'd just taken everything for granted. Now I had to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart and figure out how to move forward. I knew she'd try to come back, to guilt me into staying, but I wasn't falling for it this time. I'd learned my lesson. Never again would I trust someone so blindly. I just hoped I'd find a way to heal and learn from this nightmare. Because right now, all I wanted was to be done with her bitchy, manipulative ass. The red flags, no matter how much you love someone. Because betrayal cuts deep, but the strength you gain afterward is even deeper. I'm still hurting, still trying to piece myself back together, but I know I'll come out stronger. I don't regret loving her. I regret trusting her blindly. Now I'm learning to trust myself again. And that's the most important thing I can do. In the aftermath of everything, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on what happened and what I've learned. Honestly, I've never felt so betrayed and humiliated in my life. Lisa wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively manipulative, using her bitchy attitude and lies to keep me in the dark while she was out screwing Sean. That realization hurt worse than the betrayal itself. I thought I knew her, thought she was the woman I was supposed to spend my life with. Turns out she was just using me, playing a game, pretending to be the perfect wife until she got what she wanted. I've come to accept that I was blind for too long, blinded by love and hope that she'd change or that things would somehow get better. But deep down, I always knew she was selfish and manipulative, hiding her real self behind a veneer of bitchiness and lies. That woman was never going to change, and I was just fooling myself thinking I could fix her or that she cared enough to be honest. Now I'm focusing on healing. It's not easy, trust me. The wounds run deep. But I've started to rebuild my life from the ground up. I've cut ties with her completely, blocked her number, and deleted all the pictures and messages that reminded me of how badly I got played. I've also started therapy, trying to deal with the emotional fallout and understand how someone I loved could turn out to be so toxic. The biggest lesson I've learned is to trust myself more. Don't ignore the warning signs, and don't let anyone manipulate or lie to you just because you want to believe in the best. If someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Lisa was a bitchy, selfish woman who only cared about herself, and I should have seen it earlier. But now I see the truth clearly, and that's what matters. So to anyone out there going through something similar, pay attention to the signs. Don't ignore.